It's like they sign up for things like Ebates where when you shop, you use their coupons, you get
Hmm.
money.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to get paid to shop, man. That'd be an
right,
awesome job. Just go around and buy things and be like, yeah,
go around and buy things. I mean,
man.
here'd be good if you got to buy broadcasting stuff and get paid for it.
Oh my gosh.
I'd be so
Oh,
happy.
that'd be amazing. That'd be a dream job.
Right,
Well, I think being on air would be a dream job
right.
for like I don't know. I think it would be cool to be on air for like ABC World News, but at the same time, it's so big. It's like it covers some of the terrible things that happen in the world. Like
Right.
I'd rather be like a smaller journalist that does better stories or
Right.
freelance. I'd love to freelance on like a YouTube channel. Oh, that'd be so much fun. Like
Do that or come up with a production company. Come
there
on,
you go.
man, we got this between the
Yeah,
two of
I like that. I like what's going on here.
us. No, anyway, so what this lady did is fantastic. I'm actually
Amazing.
gonna post her picture on our Topic Talks Facebook page, just so you can see it if you don't want to click on the description, because it's awesome. I can't even describe it.
It's worth a look,
It
definitely.
is
It's
definitely
gonna
worth
make your
a
day
look.
better. I mean,
It made
that's
my day
the
better.
yeah,
Um,
the power of extreme couponing.
the power of extreme couponing.
Man,
There you go. You said it. The power of like the power that people have even at young ages is really amazing. Kind of like this 8-year-old boy
yeah.
who ended up rescuing 5 people
Wow.
from the sea in 2 days. Um,
Oh man,
yeah, you're saying the same
sounds
thing that I am.
sounds like a Boy Scout right there.
It does sound like a Boy Scout. So an 8-year-old boy rescued 5 people from the rough stretch of the coastline in
New Quay.
New Wales, in
Wales.
Spain, um, or sorry, in the span of just 48 hours. It was in
Wales.
Wales in the span of 48 hours.
Where's Wales?
Um,
I
Europe,
yeah, that's what
I think.
I thought.
Um,
Wow.
you look that up. I'll
Yeah,
keep talking.
I'll look this up.
So, Stephen Williams was out kayaking when he spotted 3 tourists huddled on a rock. Um, and he fetched his rubber dinghy and then headed towards them. The trio, and towed the trio back to the shore. Just 2 days later, he spotted 2 teenagers stuck on the same rock, frantically whistling and waving to catch his attention. Um, Stefan lives in a populated area with tourists, and he often paddles close to the shore on his kayak as his mom supervises from the beach. Stefan hopes to join the lifeboat cruise, just like his dad when he turned 17. Um, his very proud dad says he's really confident in the water. He loves to go out in his kayak. His big ambitious or his big ambitious ambition is to be on a lifeboat crew for the first time with the elderly woman and teenagers. Um, he could have stood up in the water, and he would have been up to his neck. So yeah, this is just. I mean,
That's
it's
crazy.
yeah. I mean, I thought it was like him and his dad were out somewhere, but no, his mom was supervising him from
Yeah,
shore. He was out on a kayak.
he's
He's
just
like,
doing it himself.
yeah.
Wow.
um,
But Wales, Wales is a country. This is what it says on Google. Uh, is a country in the southwest of Great Britain known for its rugged coastline. So that sort of speaks to the story. But I guess yeah, it's a country
well, and it
by
says
Great Britain.
the second time was much more serious. The two boys who were standing in the holiday park,
Hmm.
um, and that's what tend to happen when people um, walk to town across the beach. They don't realize the tide is coming back.
Ah, dang, and they just get stranded out there.
Right.
Man.
So they get swept out, and apparently they end up reaching kind of the same rock.
Huh.
Um, so yeah, this isn't.
Yeah, I remember we just went whitewater rafting with a venturing crew out in Colorado. And when we were out there, they were always saying, you gotta watch out for the rocks. You can't step on any rocks. And I was like, why? Well, what happens is once you put your like foot in like a crevice or a crack,
Mhm.
your foot gets stuck or wedged in there, and you just drowned.
Man,
So I mean it's crazy with the white water. I mean don't get me wrong, whitewater rafting's a lot of fun, but that would probably be the same for a rugged coastline in
right.
Wales. So That's some people just don't know about tides. They got to get educated.
They need to get educated. You do have that correct. And it's funny about tides. Um, and these are different tides, but the rip tides are also pretty bad in Michigan. There's a trip that our old troop goes on
Yeah.
to Beaver Island.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever went, I was with my stepbrother, who I think is younger than I am, and an older scout who is now a scoutmaster, and we all wanted to go swimming. Well, for those of you that don't know, we went to a place called Beaver Island, and that is in Lake Michigan,
Yes.
which is super cold,
Yeah.
and I'm talking like ice cold. So, um, and it's so cold that they can't. It's so cold that it's really hard to.
To swim.
Well, no,
Wow.
it's kind of you try to find a warm spot in the water.
Oh yeah.
Well, if we went out far enough, we found the spot that was super warm.
Mhm.
Well, we found out it was past the riptide, and we didn't feel any
Ah.
tide or current or anything on the way there.
Mhm.
But we found a sandbar. So if we stood
Ah.
on the sandbar, it was super warm, and we don't know why. But we got in trouble for going all the way out there. We're like, but it's the only warm spot in this lake, and um, I think we ended up stop going to that specific spot, but it was still we're like, but it's cold. But they were afraid that the riptide was going to take us because the riptide, what it does is it'll rip almost your feet out from under you
Oh
and just
wow.
kind of keep dragging you out to the ocean.
Oh,
So and you essentially drowned by doing that because you can't get out of the
actual.
tide.
Wow.
Um, so that's one of those things that it's just I don't know. Tides aren't anything that you should be messing with.
Yeah. The same thing
Uh,
with undertow. I mean, I think the whole study of oceanography is pretty cool. I haven't taken the class, but I mean, you learn enough throughout the scouting
oh
program.
yeah, because you're in a lot of lakes and
And they
that kind of
they
stuff.
definitely want to train you on everything and anything that could happen.
Oh, I'm teaching a merit badge, and it's a fishing merit badge,
Ooh.
and it's funny because some of the content of certain merit badges are so old. And I work at a hunting and fishing store, and there were some knots I didn't know how to tie because they were just fishing knots. I'd never really tried them before.
Yeah.
So I brought one of the guys from the fishing, or I went to the fishing department to talk to him about it, and they're like, half these knots we don't even use anymore. He said we use this one, and that's it. And there's like 5 knots. And so I'm like, well, I don't know how to time. Could you send a guy up? If I call about this time, could you send him up? Oh yeah, yeah. Well, he's like, I don't know. There's only a couple of us here. So I called him, and he's like, if you really need me, call me. So I called him, and he sent one of the guys from our fly fishing shop. And he was awesome with the kids. He was super informative. He was really good at showing the knots, making sure everybody got it. And we only really covered 3 out of the 5
Wow.
because there were a couple that they didn't need to know. He's like, this is a really stubborn knot. It's stupid. We don't even use it. Um, and so I'm like, that's good enough for me. Like if there's no use for it anymore, why would we, be teaching it?
Yeah, I know they've like added new merit badges, and I think they update it now and then, and they review it. But I don't know what the timetable is on that for the national side of it. But I do know like they just what was the new one? I think it wasn't graphic design. It was like
Oh, if they
3D.
had,
Huh?
or you said they're talking about adding new merit badges,
Yeah,
like a graphic design merit badge.
it was like a 3D merit badge. And they made like a 3D Cub Scout, and like that's what they use as marketing material.
Man,
For the merit badge, and it's like absolutely blows my mind. I think it was either that or game design, but they keep adding new ones each and every year. Like cinematography is not even cinematography; it's movie making, which actually I think is a better name. But
right?
cinematography sounds cool.
Yeah, it does.
It's like, but
It,
if you
it
don't
makes
know
it
what it
sound
is.
smart.
Exactly. It's like, oh, well, I learned cinematography at Boy Scout camp. They're like, oh, really? You did? That
Yeah.
sounds very interesting. Tell me more.
That's exactly what it's like. Like a lot of these merit badges, like, yeah, I learned fishing. Yeah, cool. You probably fished a lot too, didn't you? Yeah,
Yeah,
I learned photography. Okay, that's good.
yeah, that's interesting.
I shot a rifle. Never do that again. No, I
Wow.
was I was horrible at rifle shooting when I was in scouts.
It was probably the sights. The guns at Boy Scout camps are usually, I mean, they're
I mean
decent.
the shotgun. I tried to shoot
Oh,
skeet and it was horrible. I missed. Like Dan and I went out because there were several different scoutmasters. Dan and I went out and did that
Mm-hmm.
because it was the SPL Scoutmaster shoot.
At Topeka?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
so I
Topeka.
went out with Dan and we shot shotgun,
Mm-hmm.
and he hit a lot of them. I hit nothing. And then I went with Tom to archery, and he couldn't use his compound bow, so he's like, "This is crap." So we used the little bows they have. I hit nothing, and he hit
Mhm.
some things
Yeah.
because he's used to his big compound bow. And then I think we went to the rifle range. Oh, we missed that one. We didn't go to the rifle range because they were doing black powder
Oh yeah. They tend to do that on that night.
that night, and then we missed the deadline for it. So, but I'm like, needless to say, we got a low score because of me. I'm like, well,
They just switched up summer camps. They used to go to Cole Canoe Base, and they went to one on the border of Michigan and Ohio.
did they?
Beaumont, I think.
Good, because I haven't heard too many good things about Cole Canoe Base.
I used to work there. Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, I worked there for a summer. I mean, it was definitely a good experience and good memories, but it wasn't the best pay.
And it
Which
wasn't
I
li-
guess
and it wasn't nothing like Topeka, right?
is nothing like
See,
Topeka.
that,
And
that was the whole thing. Like everybody said that the older scouts,
they're so
you
much
know,
better.
everybody who was the older scouts and who remembered Camp Topeka was like, "This sucks,"
Yeah,
but they were outnumbered by all the
the younger guys.
the younger guys.
Yeah.
Were you in on that vote when all the older guys voted for Topeka and all the younger guys voted for Cole Canoe Base, and because they were outnumbered, they went to Cole Canoe Base again,
Yeah.
and then Topeka shut down.
Yeah, I remember that. That was crazy. I mean, Cole's got a decent program with like their fire and everything, but you can't beat Topeka.
Not at all.
And truly, that was my first summer camp, so like you can't beat the first one.
Oh no, not at all. I went there for several years, and just the staff was awesome. The ranger was fantastic.
Mm.
The programs were really good. I don't know. I don't think I had any complaints. I mean, there was even things that I had, like the fact that there were certain events we couldn't ride our bike to, we had to walk to.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's dumb. But I could understand because if everybody rode their bike, there'd be a million bikes, and yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I remember the sand, like just trying to trek through that. It was just horrible. It was like trying to go through like what was it called? The sinking sand.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know. Did I ever tell you the story about when Puddin, Adam, and I and Jacob tried to go up the sand hill at in Canada? No?
No, I haven't heard this. Or maybe I have and I might have forgotten.
Okay.
But I don't think.
So
I don't recall.
there's this event called Can-Am that they have in Canada. It's Canada and American Boy Scouts, and it's actually in Canada. It's just Scouts. It's Scouts of Canada or Canada Scouts or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's completely co-ed. And then here you've got Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and then Venturing, which is co-ed. And so the Canadians invited Americans to one of their camps for like that's why they call it Can-Am. It's Canadian American Camp. And there were two levels to this campground.
Yeah.
And when I first started, both levels were packed. Yeah, like we had actually camped on the lower level.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
We'd
I didn't know
camped
it
on the
got
lower
smaller.
level because we had our trailer.
Mhm.
And in Canada, nobody has trailer. Like they don't have trailers. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
Michigan, or in the U.S. we have trailers, but in Canada they don't have trailers, and they also have girls. So there was that. And there were some pretty good-looking Canadians too. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree.
But anyway, so there were two levels to this campground. And usually in past years we'd stay on the lower level. Well, nobody was camping on the lower level anymore because there wasn't that much participation. So I had everybody on the upper level. They had a lot of the events down on the lower level.
Mm.
And so there's a friend of mine. He was a scout dad. He got the nickname of Puddin. And then there was an older scout named Adam, and a scout about my age named Jacob, and I. So there were three big guys and one really skinny dude. And we're walking around and, checking out all the different events. And we want to go back up to camp. Well, there was a set of stairs all the way on the other side. But then we look up and we're like, what is this sand hill? It was just a hill of sand going up to the second layer, or the second level. We're all standing at the bottom. And you know when you stand at the bottom of something, you go, I can do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened.
Oh.
And so we're like, we can climb it. And so we start climbing this, and we realize there's like a foot of sand on top of this. Like your feet are sinking.
Oh wow.
As you're walking up this. So halfway up, we're like, because you take two